You, it's your man MAS. I'm back with another one. Alright? Another show about nothing. Crazy. This time around we're talking about Frieren. Alright? I'm always butchering these anime names, so I'm just gonna assume it's called Frieren, right? It's probably a better pronunciation for it, but yeah, Frieren, The Journey Beyond, or something of the sorts. Now, here's the thing: these shows that are about nothing, they doing numbers. Like, they're actually really good animes. It's crazy that the animes that are about nothing, in my opinion, I think are winning out here. All right, and when I say shows about nothing, hopefully people don't get too offended by it. But it's like there's no clear driven purpose, or maybe the best I could say is like the story plot tension wise, there is no tension, if that makes sense. Like, and the best I could describe it is kind of like jobless reincarnation. There's like a lot of similarities in my opinion. And here's the thing about jobless reincarnation: I thought that show was top 2 of all animes I've seen in 2023. All right, so if you haven't seen my other video, check it out. Top 5 animes of 2023. Jobless reincarnation is probably like number 2 on the list, above Jujutsu Kaisen, above Vinland Saga, just off of the storytelling alone. All right, I know a lot of people make arguments that Jobless reincarnation is essentially like an autobiography of Rudy's life. Be it as it may, but with a lot of these shows like that, and I feel like it's the same way with Frieren, is like it's an optional story, if that makes sense. Like, they're doing things that didn't really need to do. Like with Rudy, at a certain point, he had a purpose. Like, after like the whole teleportation thing, he then had a purpose of a journey where it's like, all right, he now has to find the people who got teleported that he loves and kind of supports them. But before that, it was pretty much just Rudy's life. So it's the same thing with kind of like Frieren, where it's like it was a group of adventurers. They killed the Demon King, which I thought was really refreshing, because a lot of these shows, they never kill anybody. It's like there's always like a Demon King in a lot of these isekais. This isn't an isekai, but there's always like these mega super bosses that eventually they kill or they never kill, and the journey continues, right? Maybe that's how they make money, right? It's like, hey, they can't actually get to the Demon King. All right, so just like, oh, this is the Demon King's general. At least in this show, like they start off the bat, they finished him, like like a Mortal Kombat finish him. So they finished the Demon King, and they're kind of reaping the rewards of their endeavors, right? And always kind of mix their names up. Not like Frieren, but there's Fern and then there's Frieren, right? And she's like an old ass mage, right? She looks young, but she's like 1,000 years old, right? Her lifespan, because of her race, is very different from other species in that world, right? Same thing with the dwarf, like they have different lifespans. So it seems like compared to her other lifespans, this lifespan, or at least like this timeline, however long they were on the adventure, is the most memorable, and rightfully so, right? With those group of people, they were able to defeat the Demon King, all right? So at first, and when I mean like shows about nothing, there's a purpose, right? They wanted to defeat the Demon King. There's like a drive, if that makes sense, right? Most shows, there's a villain. There's a drive to defeat said villain or save said princess or those kind of things where it's like, all right, like maybe there's a purpose for the show, but it's not rooted in pressure, tension, like, the suspense, the thriller. This was definitely optional. Like, and again, this is my review of the first 5 episodes. So if Frieren gets more fire after episode 5, like, I'll definitely eat my words. But the show was about nothing at first. It then kind of became about something when, all right, she found the place in regards to her old master, or the person who taught her magic, and it's like, hey, go to the place called heaven to talk to the dead, but in order to get there, you have to go through the same path you went through originally to face the Demon King. And she was kind of happy about it. You could tell, like, hey, she wants another journey. All right, she loves the journey. She loves the chase, right? And she's doing this with Fern, and you can kind of tell after that episode, like she's probably going to amass a new crew that are going to die off, and then she'll be the only one. But I think she likes the idea of like the adventure, right? Here's the thing: the storytelling is really, really good. Like the kind of graphics, it reminds me of kind of Jobless Reincarnation, like the sense of magic, a world that like, there's not a lot of anime that kind of capture that, right? So at first in my house comparing it to like Berserk, but Berserk, at least like the older version, I know like there's a whole bunch of new versions. The older version, granted graphics are more like gritty, but when I say Berserk, it kind of gives you that sense of like real fantasy, if that makes sense. I feel like with a lot of these isekais is fantasy, but it doesn't really feel like fantasy. It feels like an anime, right? So I put it like this: there's a difference between anime and a real fantasy vibe, right? And it's kind of hard to mix the two together, because I feel like a lot of times you watch a lot of anime that's fantasy, but it just more so feels like an anime. It doesn't really feel like, you don't get the fantasy vibe. You don't get the feel of adventure. You don't get, yeah, they're called adventurers, but it just feels like another anime. With this show, it definitely really feels like a solid fantasy. Like their journey, the different things you learn. Even that episode when they fought the boss that was sealed, that felt like a real fantasy. It's like he was sealed for so many years. They unseal him because the seal was about to break, and they defeat him. But he doesn't realize so much time has passed, and that people have cultivated his magic in a way where it's just basic magic. Like the logic for it, it really feels like solid fantasy. It really is engaging. A lot of animes can't do that. So I can see why this anime is as popular as it is. If I had to compare it versus the anime that's out now, I feel like Solo Leveling still slightly beats it. Slightly. Like this show is really good. I'm only like 5 episodes in, even though again it's about nothing. All right, it becomes about something, but I think Solo Leveling still slightly beats it. And I have to give Solo Leveling the edge because in terms of animes out right now, it's the best. Like just hands down, for what I've seen, Solo Leveling is dominating. It's just the best. Stories good, actions good, characters good. It's just the best. Frieren, unfortunately, because I think it came out last year, so I can't even give it that title for this year. But it's very, very good. Like I feel like story-wise, it's better than Solo Leveling, but Solo Leveling kind of has it in other areas. I don't know. It's very, very close. I'll put it like this: Frieren is a very, very good show. And you know something's a good show when it's about nothing and it can still engage you. Like the characters themselves are so unique. Kimo, I'll call them Kibbles and Bits. Kimo the hero, the priest, the dwarf, like they're all very unique characters in their own right. And they do a really good job of engaging you in terms of like just their life, right? Before they found the purpose of the show, right? So eventually, the quest is about going to this place just so she could talk to Kibbles and Bits again, essentially. But call them Kibbles and Bits. But before that, it really was just like, all right, like her kind of honoring her friends or the friends that passed, and her honoring their wishes, and she wanted to see like a lunar star. Like I get it, like there's stuff happening, but there's no real drive. If that makes you feel better, me saying there's no drive. Like, hey, I'm watching this, but I feel like there's nothing for me to look forward to. It's just them telling their life and what they've done, right? Like, I'm not interested in what they've done. I'm interested in what they're going to do, because that keeps me watching. Like, I want to know what they're going to do. So a lot of these shows, it's very hard to gauge somebody's interest in regards to what they've done. That's why I don't think shows like that do too well in terms of like the shows just focus on the past, right? Like, no, like shows like that is focused on the past, but the past just kind of highlights the things that they're about to do in their journey in the future, right? So that's what Frieren essentially does. They showed you in the first, I would say like 2 episodes or 3, like highlights her past, her crew's past, how old they are now. And then she takes on the new apprentice, Frieren, which is also really dope. I really like their mix of magic. It really reminds me of Jobless Reincarnation, like the action of it. And it kind of paints a picture of the things that they accomplish, how Frieren is essentially OP, right? But even her personality kind of matches the OP-ness of it, where it's like it's not like she's braggadocious, right? She's very humble, doesn't care too much for people. It's a very unique like character type. I don't think I've seen that character type in a while. I feel like if I really thought about it, I could name a person that fits within that category, anime character that fits within that category, but just off the top of my head, I haven't seen a character like that in quite a while. So even that personality type is very refreshing. And you could tell like she just needs some kind of motivation, which was great in the show. Like it was clear that she wanted some kind of motivation to like go on their journey. And, you know, seeing her deceased friend and wanting to learn more about him, that was enough motivation where it's like, all right, now there's a drive to get to that place. Just understand that it's optional. So a lot of these shows that I'm talking about, it's like, hey, there's a purpose, there's a drive. Even with solo leveling, there is a purpose, and it's a dangerous purpose. It's like a thrilling purpose, where it's like, all right, like Sung needs to provide for his family. He needs to power up, level up. He needs to face more dangerous things in order to quote unquote provide for his family. And then there's the mystery around like these gates and stuff like that. It's a drive, you know. It's not a situation where, I don't know, Dragon Ball Z, like, oh, like, yeah, Goku, you don't have to save the world. A lot of times, like, hey, if you don't do this, we're doomed, right? But what a lot of these shows are about nothing, it's a very optional journey. Like, they don't need to go on the journey. So a lot of times, if they're not shows like that have really good storytelling, it's like, what's the purpose of me watching? Unless the show is meant to be like a comedy. So like, hey, like the episodes are just meant to be funny as they do this optional thing, or these episodes are meant to be more educational as they do this optional thing. But a lot of times you can't do that if you're not any of those kind of genres and it's just an optional journey. It's like, what's the purpose of me watching? Unless you care to watch their daily lives. Again, the character has to be interesting enough to want to do that, right? But that being said, all because the show was initially about nothing is now about something, but the something is still technically optional, right? She's going on this dangerous journey with Frieren. If I was her apprentice, I'll be so tight. Like, I'm going on this like dangerous journey and risking my life, and we really don't have to, you know, like this is just for your own sanity. But it does a really, really good job at telling a story. And again, I really do put this in a separate category of like, it feels beyond anime. It's not just, it feels like a very, very, very solid fantasy feel to it. All right. Like I said, it's different between anime fantasy and the real sense of fantasy where like you want to learn more about the world. After watching just 5 episodes, I really want to learn more about the world that they're in. That's very rare because a lot of times it's like, oh, well, this is the power-ups, this is that, this is the, like that and thirds. Like it doesn't make me want to learn more. I feel like they'll just tell me later down. That's kind of how I felt with Jujutsu Kaisen. Like I didn't want to learn more about it. I was like, all right, they'll probably tell me, but with this one, and the same thing with Jobless Reincarnation, like those shows are so good storytelling, even Vinland Saga too. It's in that realm where like storytelling is so good. I really want to learn more about the world around them because it kind of helps paint the picture of like how things are going to go in the journey, and either how dangerous it's going to be or how, you know, like how the characters are going to develop, like what other interesting characters they're going to find, what other interesting dilemmas they're going to encounter. So it's superb storytelling so far. Just episodes 1 through 5. Again, it's not really about anything. It's just kind of telling her history a little bit. But I'll say like episode 4, maybe 4 or 5, it really does have some semblance of a purpose. But from episode 1 till 5, I promise you it will get you engaged. It is that good. I think it's better than Jobless Reincarnation, like in that regards. The only reason why I feel like I would like Jobless Reincarnation slightly better is because it was more comedy, right? But and even that was really good storytelling. I really love good stories. So Frieren episode 1 through 5, 5 stars, 10 out of 10 so far. All right. If it gets worse, I'll best believe I'll let you know. But for the most part, these shows are about nothing. They winning out here. All right. You can take some pointers from them. But it's your man MAS. I'm out until I watch the next 5 episodes, and I'll give you my 10 episode review. All right. Please, if you like the content, like, comment, subscribe. I'm out. I meant to say 2 fingers out.